Good afternoon, guys. Good afternoon. This is Tucker, also known as Haggard, back with another episode of Tucked In. And we are sitting at about 212 on Solana, which is what we're going to talk about today. Hit that like and subscribe. That always helps us out. And let's dive right in, guys. So I know usually we start with a blank chart. Today, we're not going to do that. Today, we're going to have a few lines already on the chart. So just wanted to mark it up a little bit for you guys before we started. So anyway, let's go start on the weekly. So we have two pretty obvious levels, right? I'm going to pull this way. We have pretty good support, right? Between 200 and 187, specifically 203 and 187. Pretty strong resistance, right? Sitting at 245 to 235. Something we talked about. We talked about this volume file from back here. That was a lot of supply overhead. We came right into it, formed a bear div, sold off. For me, I think this is going to end up being a range. I do. I think we're going to end up doing this and then maybe even that, higher low. There we go, right? That's kind of my thought process for Sol if we're just going to zoom out and break it down to its simplest form. I think from here, we most likely, like I said, form a low volatility range, which should look something like this. Okay. We have, and Jack has pointed this out on market check, I believe, and this is pretty much the bottom wick of that candle, but we've stayed within this candle for a few 4 hours now, right? I think most likely you're going to get this to come back down, maybe sweep the low, come back. We're going to need a little bit of this. We're going to need a little bit of this going into October. Probably kill some optimism on the way, but as soon as you flip this level, I think you're easily got a free shot up here, right? I think there's a pretty good shot you're going to come back into that level. Now, something that I like to look at and talk about is the fourth tap. Okay. If we want to, I don't know if we want to do that actually. I'm just going to mark it out. 1, 2, 3. This is exactly what happened for ETH, by the way. I think this is what you're going to get, right? And I'm going to pull up ETH side by side. But there is something to be said about 4 taps of a level, right? And obviously, the more times you hit a level, the more likely you are to break through, et cetera, et cetera. But we wanted to look at this. The 4th time we came into this 4K level, we blasted through. Right now, we're pulling back, retesting, and that's my expectation for ETH. For Sol, I do not think that you need to pull this move that ETH did, even if you are sitting at 3, right? Given my expectations of Bitcoin and ETH, right? I don't think there's any reason Sol needs to sell off all the way below these lows. There's no reason for that. I think what you end up doing, kind of like you did here on ETH, is forming a higher low in this range, making your 4th attempt, and doing one of those. If I had to guess, this is when Bitcoin tops. This is when altcoins top. Okay, that I really think is what's going to happen. So my expectation, a pullback into the end of the month, shallow out, start pumping. This time might be a little bit off, but into mid to late October, get out of here, make your 4th attempt, right? Pull back, Bitcoin's topped. Bitcoin, I think, will top in December, honestly. Like, we've topped in December many times. We topped in Q4 many times. It's when we put in blow-off tops. So I think you get this, and this could even be higher. This could be like right here, right? 300 Bitcoin tops. Nobody knows it at the time, right? Bitcoin pulls back, and then you see altcoins absolutely fly. And there's a lot of precedent for that. There's a lot of precedent for that. I'm going to show you why. We're going to go daily, actually. We're going to go back to 2017. Stay on linear. All right, now we're going to do others. Okay, this was the Bitcoin top. Okay, this was the altcoin top. There was about 3 weeks, right? Not quite a month, but 3 weeks in between those two, right? So that's exactly what I was saying for Sol. Let's get rid of some of these lines. I think the way it's set up on Sol, you get your pullback, you make your fourth attempt, which is this, right? Which is a Bitcoin top. Bitcoin pulls back. Sorry, we're here. Bitcoin pulls back. Sol pulls back. Higher high. Massive higher high. Massive blow off top for Sol and other altcoins. Bitcoin lower high. This divergence is the key in my opinion, right? When you see Bitcoin set a lower high on a macro time frame and altcoins set a higher high, that's it in my opinion. Like that, it's done. You know, like that's the time to get out of there, right? So yeah, that's kind of my expectation for Sol in the short term and going into Q4. But I think there's definitely a good setup coming. I think there's definitely a pretty decent long in the high 180s, you know, low 190s, something like that. But above 200, even better, right? Just hang out above 200, it looks even better. But I think you get 190 on Sol, you're looking at like 3,800, 3,900 on ETH, which is fine, right? That'll just be ETH completing the correction that we just talked about. Get rid of all that. ETH completing this correction. So wherever this low is, it could be in, it could be slightly lower. I think that's the one to bid going into Q4. And then, like I said, when you see that divergence between Bitcoin and others, Bitcoin in total 3, that's when you get ETH and Sol to blow off with altcoins as well, in my opinion. So yeah, anyways, that's pretty much it, guys. Just wanted to hop on, make a quick video about Sol because it is setting up for a very interesting Q4. But yeah, like I said, that's it. I'll be back next week with another episode of Tucked In, and hit the like and subscribe. Always helps us out. So, all right, guys, that's it. I'll see you next week.